Hey guys, Stealth here. Welcome to World of Warships. Today, in World of Warships, once again a Fiji replay. I know I already featured multiple of these before, but I just have such fantastic games in Fiji that I really want to show those off. Today I'm platooned up with Streif over there in the Gneisenau to my starboard aft. We are in a mostly Tier 8 and even Tier 9 game. The enemy team has an Essex, an Iowa and a Rune. Also, a couple of Tirpitzes, a Bismarck, Kuchezov and a Benson, and the rest is Tier 7. So initially I was not feeling very confident about this match. The Fiji is very fragile, and you have to keep that in mind. Fortunately, on this map you have plenty of islands to hide behind, use your smoke for cover when you don't have an island, and when the smoke runs out, quickly dash back to behind the cover of an island. Also, very useful in this map are torpedoes. And these torpedoes can deny enemies the area of ingress into, for example, a cap zone, such as over in B, potentially blocking off some islands here at C, and in A you have a much larger area. So with my few torpedoes it is much more difficult to get a very clear torpedo screen over there to just restrict enemy movement. So for now I'm just having a look at what the team is doing and seeing where my torpedoes and my ship in general is best used. The way that I play Fiji is as basically a big destroyer. She's pretty sizable for a destroyer in that sense. I mean, it is a light cruiser. She's pretty broad, which means that she takes a while to slow down. And as one of those weird British light cruisers, it is very unusual in the sense that it speeds up in a turn. Only the initial part of the turn is where you slow down just a few knots, and then you just thunder through the turn, like physics doesn't really affect the British ships. What I do have on this ship, which is very handy, is manual AA fire, and that means that my long range AA guns are going to be boosted. So the long range AA guns have a damage output bonus, provided that I use the manual selector. I have to click on a squad that I want to fire at. The enemy Essex is already firing, or is already sending quite a few planes. We have a torpedo bomber squadron, a dive bomber and a fighter coming in. And the fighter is just flying almost directly to our Essex for some reason or another. I'm not exactly sure why. For now, I'm going to be working over these torpedo bomber squadrons, and they are only Tier 8 planes. I think that we might be dealing with a major stock Essex, which means that even with my AA rating I can still shoot down aircraft. As far as team deployment goes, I am actually pretty far ahead of the curve, in the sense that I am way ahead of the team, in that most battleships are still lingering behind here. We have a battleship and a cruiser pushing towards sea and a destroyer there. There is only one destroyer on our team and 2 destroyers on the enemy team, so we really don't have a lot of destroyers to fear. Meanwhile, I've shot down 4 aircraft, which is, from an Essex, quite remarkable. It's way better than I'd expected. And I am not moving into B just yet. I first want to have a little bit more backup and have a look at what I can expect at B. And we have our first couple of contenders. The Benson is very heavily skirmishing with the Bliskovica over there. We have a Megami to my south, and further to my south is a Rune and the Iowa. Iowa fortunately heading away towards the A-cap, but it's not the only battleship there. There's also a Tirpitz, and there's the Megami again. I keep getting spotted every now and then, so I have to be very careful not to risk my neck, because basically any round that fires at the Fiji will penetrate the Fiji. It is just that squishy. And from what I've been able to see on, for example, the Reddit, most captains just despise these British cruisers. They are not good enough, they are too squishy, but for me they are my absolute favorite class of ship. They are just that good. That is, if you know how to play them. Don't stick out too much, don't risk your ship that much, because there's really not any sense of armor on this thing. Took a few rounds, and unfortunately I'm already heavily detected by the enemy ships, but most of the islands are blocking their attacks towards this ship, so hopefully I can still stay safe here. And surprisingly, there are no other destroyers coming towards this area. This is where I made my first mistake. I took a bit too much broadside fire. And fortunately, the British repair crews are excellent at their job, and they are immediately repairing the damage. Now, something that is going to be a problem is right up ahead. It's the Iowa. We have an Iowa moving up ahead. We have a Tirpitz, which is basically holding position behind the island. So, and this is something that the game doesn't quite accurately show, I am actually firing at the Iowa, not the Tirpitz. So my torpedoes are out, and I'm slowing down, warning Streif to brace for impact as we're about to engage with an Iowa. And I thought Streif was behind me. Turns out he wasn't. He was way over to the sea capture zone over to my right. Now have a look at the damage. This is what Fiji does. 4k damage salvos every 7.5 seconds. Iowa spots the torpedoes, tries to turn, takes a massive hit, and in basically a couple of seconds I've done 40,000 points of damage to a tier 9 battleship. So if you find yourself in a tier 7 ship that you might think that is completely useless in a tier 9 match, or whatever mismatched tier you're meeting, remember that you can always do damage. You can always do some sort of damage to the enemy team, whether it's torpedoes, HE damage, setting fires, I don't care what kind of weapon system you're using. Don't think that you're useless, because you're absolutely not. Because between me and my teammates, we just took this Iowa apart. And it is just the first, say, 5-6 minutes of the match. And the next contender's already here. There's the Tirpitz. Unfortunately, the Tirpitz is starting to reconsider his choices here and moving forward instead. So my torpedoes are no good. I am inside the smokescreen with the Mogami here. And fortunately we have another target. The Mogami on the enemy team has once again made it back here and is now showing me a perfect broadside. So thank you very much, here's a Citadel. That is the type of damage that you want to see with these British cruisers. Another salvo goes in. Not quite sure how much damage I did, but 8 hits and 8 penetrating hits really mauled that ship. So I already did 71k at this stage. Next up is an incoming Bismarck. Once again, torpedoes going out. I have no smoke, so I am running away. I have absolutely no defense against that ship. And without any kind of defense, without an island, the secondary armament of the Bismarck will absolutely maul me if I let it. So I'm trying to swing around. One torpedo hits the ship. My other torpedo launchers are now becoming available, although this Bismarck is slowing down, potentially to just avoid my initial set of torpedoes. Streif comes in, takes a torpedo or two, and just keeps pushing directly for the Bismarck in his Gneisenau in order to get his torpedoes off. This guy is now down to 24,000 hit points. I keep pummeling him with AP. 16,000 damage, or 16,000 hit points, 8,000, 7,600, there we go, 4.5. Keep pummeling the guy, one more salvo. I even put the guy on fire, and I thought that we had him, but no, he survives. 35 hit points, there's the kill. But he gave me a bit of a kiss goodbye, and just took off more than half of my health there. And the next potential guy to do that is already at me. Colorado. Colorado, off to my stern. I sent out a few torpedoes hoping to just hit that ship. And at this range I really don't have that much hope of my torpedoes hitting. They have a range of 8 clicks, which means that they are not that likely to actually hit the target. At the same time, we have an incoming dive bomber squadron. And with the dive bombers closing in, I do not want to open myself up both to the Colorado and the dive bomber, so I'm immediately popping smoke, slowing down, and allowing Streif to also join me in this smoke cloud. And surprisingly, the Colorado doesn't turn. So he just took more torpedo hits, and there's another kill. In the meanwhile, the Essex is not letting up. He's coming in with torpedo bombers, dropping his torpedoes. I already anticipated the drop there, so I'm pulling back as fast as possible. shooting down some aircraft in the process, and even Streif was able to avoid all of the torpedoes there. Mainly thanks to the fact that the Essex did not see him. He just had no idea where Streif was. So we are doing the torpedo dance, capturing the area, securing the zone, and of course there are still more ships around. We have a Tirpitz that is for some reason just moving back and forth here behind the island. The Mogami is coming in from the other end, and over towards the far right we have a Tirpitz and a Rune. Now I'm very slowly crawling my way through a turn here, because this Tirpitz is getting a bit too aggressive. Streif in the Gneisenau launches his torpedoes. I try to get my torpedoes up as well, but I need to turn further in order to do that. So I pop my hydro, alerting us 2 torpedoes, which, well, they're going to be obvious. Streif takes a full salvo of torpedoes into his ship. He's done. But his own torpedoes pretty heavily damaged the Tirpitz. I'm taking all sorts of secondary fire, but I can do a lot of damage to this Tirpitz. And there we go. There's a torpedo hit and a kill. But that did not come freely. I lost a lot of hit points. I'm down to 4600. I'm repairing as fast as possible. But I am not really going to be very healthy, even if I survive the next engagement. So my health is back up to about 8k by the time the damage repair gets done. And that's when the next contender arrives. The Mogami, the one that I already hit quite a few times. I was really hoping to get a kill on this guy, to get a Kraken. But unfortunately North Carolina over to my starboard just takes him out with one easy salvo. So now it's time to push up further. We have B and C. Let's see if we can get A. And I've already done 136,000 points of damage in this ship. Let's see if I can go some more. The problem, however, is that I'm getting detected by an aircraft. And I cannot exactly see said aircraft. The Kuchezov does not have a problem with that and is in fact trying to get shots in on me. No longer I'm detected by an airplane, but now I'm just detected by sheer line of sight. So trying to push forward in order to keep this island between me and him, as I'm getting into a better position for my smokescreen to be deployed, and I'm also hoping for the support of this battleship behind me. If he engages the Kuchezov, then I have a fair chance of survival. So while I'm waiting, I might as well take some shots at the Essex. Now the Essex is a tough carrier. It really depends on where you hit it if you're going to do damage. And there you go, I just hit his stern a couple of times and they just bounced off harmlessly. You want to try and hit this ship a little bit further amidships in order to do the damage that you want to do on it. And again, I was hoping for the kill here. 3000 damage, I want to get that Kraken. He just continues to burn. 126, and just as my shells are about to impact, unfortunately, the carrier dies to the fire. Kuchezov, again, not an option. So with that, we win the game, doing 142,000 damage. So, about that whole feeling of being useless in a tier 7 and a tier 9 game? Yeah, not so much. You can do a lot of damage if you use your ship well. And that gives me a lot of credits, a lot of XP, and quite a nice amount of free XP as well. Now there are some bonuses in effect, so just ignore those. We're going to have a look at those further. Team score puts me on the top of the list, 2350 XP. Streif and the Gneisenau at the third spot, and the Benson at second spot, probably due to capturing and very heavy skirmishing over at Sea Zone. Detailed report gives me the damage for the different ships. Note the Iowa. Iowa has 52,000 damage incurred from me out of a 90,000 damage or 90,000 hit point ship. And that means that this ship just took a severe beating. It doesn't matter if it's a tier 9 battleship, you can still do a lot of damage using both torpedoes and, in the case of British cruisers, your main armament with AP. Now for credits and XP, take note that I am using the Type 17 camouflage. This is the permanent camouflage that gives me a 50% bonus. I also have a daily win bonus, so my base XP with premium is only 3,500. And therefore, including all the servicing costs, my premium or my credit gains are 256,000. If you do fly, however, or if you do use the Type 17 camo, you have your daily win bonus, you have your dragon flag and your Zulu hotel flag, then you can get a ton of commander XP. I got 25,000 points for my commander. And I'm still retraining the commander on my Fiji, as the Fiji commander has moved on to the Neptune by now. But the commander on the Fiji just really enjoyed this match and got a lot of XP, working towards his next couple of skill points. And with that, it's the end of the video. So I hope that you learned or enjoyed watching the Fiji in action. Tier 7 British cruisers are nothing to be laughed at. They are very, very potent, provided you use them well. Make sure you always have islands, make sure you have smoke when you can deploy it, and if you deploy it, it's ideal if you're broadside onto a target, so that you can continue to fire at it with all of your guns, and potentially your torpedoes, depending on the range. So let me know what your thoughts are down below in the comments. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you soon for more World of Warships.